I'm Sarah Kuhn. Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. I am so excited that you are here today. We have an amazing guest. A lot of people have been asking me about relationships. So I went looking for a relationship coach, and I actually found an INFJ relationship coach. And I asked her all of the questions that you guys have been asking me about relationships and some questions that I have as well. So I'm really excited for you to hear this episode. She answers so many questions, and she does it in such a great way too. I wanted to go over a couple of things before we get to that. If you have been on my website the past couple of weeks, I'm sure that you have noticed that there's been some problems. I had this great idea that I was going to save some money and switch over to a new host. And it was a lot bigger of a thing than what I thought that it was going to be. It was a really big learning process for me because I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I was very quickly in over my head. So I think that I have it sorted out now, and it seems to be working in the last couple of days. So if you haven't been over there, make sure that you go over there. I posted yesterday a story or a blog post that talks a lot about my website problems, and it talks about some other challenges that I've had in the last couple of weeks. But the main thing that I was talking about in the post is persistence. I've been sharing my problems with some of my friends, and one of the big things that I noticed is that a lot of people, when they run up against a problem, they just throw their hands up and say, okay, that's it. That must be it. That must be the answer. The answer is just no. And for me, that even when somebody tells me no, I usually don't accept it. I usually think, okay, there has to be another reason. There has to be another way around this. Maybe there's somebody else that I can talk to. It's like a puzzle, and I love puzzles. So if it's something that I can figure out, then let's figure it out. So the post is all about persistence, and then again, it explains some of the issues that I've had. So make sure you go over there and check it out. You can find it at infjwoman.com. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is this community that I've created. So I have a new website that's called infjcommunity.com. On the website, I think of it a lot like a magazine or a newspaper. You're going to find a lot of articles that are posted by INFJs just like you and just like me. Some people are writers, and they're fantastic, amazing writers, even better than I am. There's a post that went up on this past Saturday that literally, when it was sent to me, I read it and I started crying. It's so beautiful and so completely amazing. I really encourage you to read it because it's gorgeous. Some of the posts, like I said, are by these amazing, wonderful writers. Some of them are by people who are just starting out, who are brand new. I wanted to have this platform because I feel like as INFJs, we have so much that we can share with each other. And I want to be able to help anybody who wants to write, because I know how difficult it is to get started writing. I started putting myself out there all alone, and I didn't have anybody to lean on. I didn't have anybody to encourage me. And I didn't have an audience. I had to find my own audience. But I feel like with this, there is an audience. And there's already people out there who are saying, me too, I do the same thing. So if you want to start writing, there's an opportunity for you to write and to submit your stories. You can find it on there as well. It's under the About Us section, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or you can just send me your story too. My email address is podcast@infjwoman.com. And I'll put a link for it in the show notes too, so you know exactly where to send it to. And so you have the link. So it talks about there's some guidelines that you need to follow. But even if your story doesn't meet 700 words, or if you're not sure about it, please send it over to me. I would love to read it. And if nothing else, just provide you with some feedback. So that's the first part of INFJ Community, is this website that I really look at as like a newspaper or a magazine. That's the website. The community is a second part of it that's on a platform that's a lot like Facebook, but it's better than Facebook. First of all, it's just for us. So there are a couple of INFPs and a couple of ENFJs, but for the most part, it's just INFJs. And we are sharing stories, we're sharing problems, we're getting advice from each other. There's a lot of Me Too's that are happening. It's just this really amazing, amazing place. And I'm so excited for you guys to be a part of it. And I really hope that you will come over and join. It's completely free, so you don't have to worry about any cost that's associated with it. It's just this amazing place to meet people that are just like you and who understand you. It's like a whole new level of feeling seen and heard and understood. I asked some of the people who are already in the group to describe it for you, and I want to read to you a little bit of what they said. The first one says, "This community is very embracing, like a warm hug after a long journey away from home." And the next one says, "It feels like I found my habitable zone. Though most of the times I choose to remain the observer, it's like I don't have to prove anything to anyone. My mere existence will not be questioned. I won't have to explain anything as if it were rocket scientists." The next one says, "It feels like you knocked on and opened doors. You're surrounded by people who say, 'Me too,' and 'I understand.' While hearing this, you feel like all the tension and hardness from the world just melts away. You breathe a sigh of relief, you walk through the door, and you watch it shut on the rest of the world for the time being." I love that. I loved reading all of these. There's one more. It says, "I'm beginning to see glimmers of hope that I'm capable of engaging with people the way that I want to, not just the way that I should. This feeling of somehow being connected and maybe even understood without being judged has been a breath of fresh air." That is exactly how I feel. It's like this feeling of being able to say all of the things that you want to say to maybe your friends and your family, but you know that if you say them, that you don't know what the reaction will be, I guess. I have really been wanting to talk about daydreams. I've been wanting to talk about it a lot because I read about INFJs having these amazing daydreams. And I'll be the first to say that I have some killer, amazing daydreams. In fact, this past Friday, I spent the majority of my day engrossed in this daydream that was so intense and so vivid that it felt like the world around me was melting away. And I really had to focus to do some normal things like driving and going to eat lunch, remembering to eat lunch, and completing some simple tasks at work. It's been a while since I've been able to be in that space. And I know that if I told regular, normal, everyday people, my friends, my family, that they wouldn't understand. They would tell me that I was crazy or that I needed to go see a counselor or that I shouldn't do that. And I don't know how to explain it to people because they just don't get it. And usually the little bit of times that I have tried to explain it to people, they tell me that I'm wrong for doing it. Like I said, they tell me that I need to stop doing it and that I need to focus on the present and that I need to be, less in my head and more in the present moment. But this morning I was scrolling through the community platform, and there was a post on there where somebody was asking about daydreams. And I was like, oh my God, I was just doing that. Like, yes, I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying. I do it all the time. I love daydreams. I have this whole world that I created in my head that it's perfect. And it's not perfect. It's like an imperfect type of perfect. Which sounds really weird, but I go to great lengths to make sure that it's not so perfect that it's unbelievable. I know sometimes I just have to shake my head at the details, but it's like, I love it there. I want to spend all of my time there. But yes, that's one of those things that I don't talk about I don't talk about it with my friends. I don't talk about it with my family because they don't understand. But being a part of this community, they understand. and I didn't have to explain it, and I knew that I wouldn't feel judged by putting it out there. But I love that we have this place where we can connect, and I love that there's this place where we can feel understood and feel like we belong. And it's really important to me that this stay a safe place for all of us. So I'm working very hard to make sure that the right kind of people are here, and that anybody who isn't committed to this dream and this plan and this goal, that they won't be there for very long. Unfortunately, that's part of when you're the host of something, you have to deal with that. But I want you to know that, because I want you to feel safe in this community, and I want it to be a place for us to learn and grow and feel like we belong. That's my goal. That's my plan. That's my dream. And I really hope that you'll come and check it out, because it really is completely amazing. The other part of it is there's an opportunity for us to do events connected with this platform. I am working on some events very soon. We can do in-person events, we can do online events, we can do courses, which is another thing that we're going to talk about. This morning, I spent talking to an INFJ. We had coffee because I ran into her on Facebook just this past week, and in a random group too, but I was putting my one of my previous podcast episode up there and talking about how much I enjoyed it and hoping that people would listen to it. And she commented on it, and she's just like, wow, you live in the town next to mine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we should get together. And she said, yes, absolutely. And we spent 2 hours this morning just having coffee and talking. And it was like we'd known each other forever. And we talked about some things that I don't even talk to my friends and family about. So I'm convinced now more than ever that we need to do in-person meetups. We need to be in front of each other. And I know that that's really scary. Believe me, I know, because yesterday I was concerned that I had to go to this new coffee place that I'd never been to and meet this person that I've never been to, or that I've never met, that I have no idea what she's like. And I was really concerned. And this morning I was like super anxious about it. And as soon as I got there, I felt super weird. I didn't know how to order coffee. And if you guys drink coffee, you know what that looks like. I order my coffee every single morning on a Starbucks app, and I don't have to say the words. I just have to walk in there and get it. But when you go to a new place, it's like, okay, I know that I want at Starbucks, it's called a peppermint mocha. But at the new place, I don't know what it is. And so I have to figure out it's very stressful. It's very stressful. I was as concerned about ordering my coffee as I was about meeting this new person. But it worked out. I put myself out there. I had coffee that, it was okay. It wasn't Starbucks. It's hard for me to beat Starbucks coffee. But yeah, we had this amazing, amazing conversation. And we talked about things like dreams and manifesting and self-doubt and self-love. It was just the most amazing conversation, and I enjoyed it so much. And I want for you guys to be able to experience that too. So I don't have a plan at this point. This is just me putting it out there in the universe. We are going to put something together. I promise you. I think the first one is going to be in Boston in the next couple of months, primarily because I'm in Boston, and that's what's going to work for now. We're going to work out some of the kinks before we start doing more of these, but I really see this as a big thing in the future. The other thing that I wanted to tell you about that's associated with the community is that we can do courses on this community. And I want to do a course on self-development, because self-development, self-love, self-confidence is something that means so much to me. I have learned so much in the last couple of years. And I've had a lot of anxiety about it too, because I feel like I want to be all the way developed before I start teaching other people how to do it. But at the same time, I feel like I know enough about it that I can get you started. I can get you on the right path. And I'm in a whole different place right now than I was a year ago. And certainly a whole different place than I was 3 years ago. So I may not know everything that there is to know, but I do know enough to be able to share it with you. And I want to do that. So, like I said, I don't have all the details yet, but I am putting something together. If you're interested, please join the community. You will see all of it in there. There will be a link for it in the show notes. You can find it at infjcommunity.com as well. So yes, please join the community. If you are at all interested in self-love, self-development, learning about your emotions, learning about being an INFJ and how all of that fits together, yes, please come and join us. It's going to be an amazing time. And being able to connect with other INFJs who are on the same journey, who want to be a better version of themselves, who want to get over or get past all of the things that are holding them back, things like setting boundaries, things like motivation, setting dreams and goals and working for them. All of those types of things are things that we're going to talk about. I 100% believe that mindset makes a huge difference. Like, it'll change your life. I know that it will. I know that when I've had dreams that I've believed in, I've been able to make them happen. And it goes back to persistence. Like what my blog post this week is about. It's about persistence. It's about believing that you can, regardless of what other people say, and putting in the work. And I'm 100% convinced that self-love is the same way. Like I said, I've noticed this huge change in myself in the last year, and especially in the last 3 years. So I want to help you guys get on that journey as well. So yes, if you're interested in those things, please let me know about it. You can send me an email. My email is podcast@infjwoman. You can also send me a direct message on Instagram, which is @infjwoman. Or on the Quiet Ones. It's the Quiet Ones podcast. You can send me a message there. Okay, so one last thing, and then we're going to get to the interview. I'm sure that you've noticed that the podcast episodes this year have been a little bit different than what they were in the past. I have found a whole bunch of amazing people that I'm so excited to be able to talk to and interview, which is another reason why I think that we should get together, because connecting with other INFJs is just so completely amazing. So I wanted to let you know that we're going to be doing a lot of interviews. So many people I'm so excited to talk to and for you to hear, because I've already recorded a bunch of them, and there are lots of amazing information, lots of amazing INFJs who have unbelievable businesses and I really think that we can all support each other too, which is really cool. That's the most amazing part of this community. But I also wanted to let you know that I still want to read your stories. I know for sure that there are some podcasts where we'll have time to read your stories, some that will be, the interviews are a little bit shorter, so we'll have a little bit extra time. So if you have a story that you want to share, please send it to me. Again, my email address is podcast@infjwoman. And the stories, they don't have to be professional. They don't have to be written in any kind of, perfect way. I have problems spelling. Sometimes all of my sentences aren't complete. So however you want to put it out there. And they can be things about being an INFJ, how you found out that you're INFJ, what kind of work that you do, or any business experiences that you have, especially if you have your own business. If you want to talk about dating or relationships, especially if you know your partner's type. And it can be a good story or it can be a bad story. We all have both. You can talk about any type of hobbies that you have, places that you like to travel, or really anything that lights you up, or that you feel like you could help even one person. Because that's the main goal of everything that I do. If I can help just one person, that's all that matters to me. So again, you can send them to podcast@infjwoman.com. Okay, so let's get to the interview, right? That's what we're all here waiting for. I know that so many people have sent me questions about relationships, and I'm the worst person to talk to about relationships. My thought process on relationships in the past several years has just been avoidance because I really haven't had that great experience. Even though I want it, it's something that I've just put everything else in front of, I guess. But I know that a lot of people have questions about it. A lot of people send me questions about it, and I love getting your questions. I love hearing from you guys. So please don't stop sending me questions. But I also want to be able to provide you with really good answers to those questions. And I know that there are some places like relationships that I'm not really the person to ask. So I went looking for a relationship coach. And I found a few of them actually. And the person that we're talking to today, her name is Shachee. She's an INFJ and a relationship coach. And she was absolutely wonderful to talk to. She answered all of the questions so beautifully. And we talked about things like dating, boundaries, how to handle conflict, how to handle communication, how to handle alone time. And I really enjoyed the interview. So I'm really excited for you to hear it. And just as a reminder, you can watch all of the videos on YouTube as well. All of my interviews from now on are being done on video. So you can find them at youtube.com/The Quiet Ones Podcast. Tell me how you discovered your personality type.
Actually, the Myers-Briggs wasn't my first personality test. I did I was very much did the 5 big personality tests first, and they only test you in 5 big parts of your personality, and they tell you if you're like this or that, which was very nice but very limiting. And then when I was, I think, first year in university, fresh psychology student, sorry, not graduate, my teacher was like, personality tests are cool. You should go check them out. And he gave us a bunch of links. And Myers-Briggs was one of them. And that's when I found out I was actually an ENFJ first back then.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, I have kind of transitioned to an INFJ, which is very similar. It's just I've become more introverted.
Right. Yeah. My niece is an ambivert, which is just like in the middle of introvert and extrovert. Sometimes you're introverted and sometimes you feel more extroverted.
Yeah, totally. I think I see myself that way.
Right. So how did you get into being a relationship coach then?
So basically I did psychology, and then I did my master's, and turns out that I was really fascinated by relationships and how personalities play a part in that. So then my focus was just researching love and personality and people's relationships. So that was my thesis for when I did my master's. And apparently that's a very popular topic, because then I ended up working in rehabs, as a counselor first, and then also helping people with their relationships there. And then I realized everything in my life has been pointing me to become a coach. So then I transitioned from being a relationship therapist to a coach.
Wow, that's awesome. It's really, really awesome when you figure out what it is that you're supposed to do, like that one thing that you really feel like your whole life has been pointing you towards.
Yeah, I've definitely been the relationship advice giver for longer, all the way back in high school.
Right? Well, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast because so many people ask me relationship related advice, and I'm like, I'm so the wrong person to ask. So I have all kinds of questions for you, and a lot of these come from people who have asked me questions. So I'm going to start with the one that I get the most, which is, what's the best type for an INFJ as a companion or as a significant other?
So I have 2 answers for that.
Okay.
And this is based on my dating experiences, other INFJs. They find that they're very compatible with ENFJs, actually, because they're very similar, but they bring the extroverted part into the relationship, the spontaneity, the laid backness a little bit more.
Right. Now,
So
see, that's the part that, for me, when people say, oh, you're an introvert, you should date an extrovert, I'm like, oh, no, that's not going to work. Because I don't like going out and, you know, being around other people. And I don't want somebody to force me to do that. I want somebody who's okay with it maybe like once a month or something. But like, I want somebody to be alone with together. You know what I'm saying?
That's the whole beauty of the ENFJs. Like they don't really need you to go out. They can do that by
Oh,
themselves.
okay. I see.
So it's like they're meeting their social needs their way. And
Right.
then because ENFJs are also known as like the givers, you know? So
Mhm.
like they can INFJ pretty well in that case.
Right.
It's like the energies are the same. It's just they need more socialness and you need more quiet time.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
The other one I think is very good is INFP. Because like they're idealists, but they're also like, I know it's like less punctual and willing to plan. So like it kind of balances out like, I don't know. I'm very obsessive when it comes to planning. So like INFPs, even as friends, you know, they're like, oh, let's decide when we get there, you know, like they're idealists, but they don't like push it too much. They're also laid back. So
Right.
the spontaneity as well, you
Yeah.
know, which is I think what INFJs really need, in my opinion. Like, okay, the schedule is we'll go on a date once a week, and it's like kind of rigid.
Right. I'm very good at schedules too and routines. I like routines. I do the same thing like every single day. And some people are like, you're eating the same thing for lunch that you ate yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with that? And they're like, but that's what you ate last week and last month, like every single day. I'm like, it's good. Like, what's wrong with it? It also eliminates me having to make any kind of decisions, or, you know, I know exactly how much time it's going to take to get there, and, you know, all of those kinds of things.
Totally. Like I do know that like there's a need for balance around that. Like we need to be like pulled out just a little bit, not enough to like, you know, suddenly do scary social stuff, but then just
Right.
enough. Okay, let's go try this new restaurant today.
I think part of that too was I posted something on social media yesterday about lunch. I'm the person at work who avoids all of the other people at work for lunch. So like I go to lunch earlier than everybody else, and I'll go out just to avoid the lunchroom. Um, that's like how far my social skills go. And people ask me like, why do you go to lunch at 11 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, I don't eat breakfast, you know, and I get hungry earlier. When really it's because if I go to lunch at 11, I get a whole hour to myself for my lunch break, and then I get a whole hour to myself for their lunch break when they leave. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Is it hard to like be surrounded by people all the time? Is that why?
Um, yeah, I think so. Because there's a lot of noise in our office, so there's just people constantly talking, and a lot of distraction too. So, all right, that's awesome. I love the second answer because I have this idea in my head that I want an INFP, and I know that that's like very specific, especially when I don't have a specific one in mind. But I know one who I think is just completely amazing.
Right.
And it's like I just want to keep learning more and more about them. Um, so I love that.
I also love that INFPs are like also very optimistic,
Right.
whereas we are very natural at worrying. It's
Yes.
not pessimistic. I just think we just think of the worst case scenario more than we need to. That's
Yes.
why INFPs are amazing.
um, yes, I've been called negative a lot because I think about all of the different sides of everything. And then I'm like, okay, let's plan for the worst and hope for the best. And so, like, if we're prepared for worst case scenario and something better happens, then it'll be great. And if, you know, worst case scenario happens, then it's like, oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been told by my friends and my partner and everyone that like I should stop doing that. Just, just think of the positives. Like, you know,
Right.
you're gonna do all of this amazing stuff. Like that.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what dating looks like for INFJs. I get a lot of questions about where's the best place to find potential partners. Um, I'm single right now, and one of my friends at work is trying to tell me that I need to start dating on like Tinder and Bumble and all these places because he used them to find his current girlfriend and he thinks it's the greatest thing. And I'm like, oh, that just, oh, it's like torture, just swiping and seeing these. You get like one picture and you get like half a sentence. It's they're supposed to be their life story or something, and you're like, I'm supposed to decide if I want to waste my time talking to you based on one terrible selfie and half a sentence.
There are other dating sites that are more comprehensive. Like Match.com is a great one. Like they literally tell you like what percentage of profile matches yours.
Right.
I mean, like I think like Tinder is great if you're looking for hookups. Like I know INFJs like are very passionate and can be very sexual, but like that's what like Tinder is for, to express
Right.
that's so it's Bumble really. But like for like serious dating, it's like I would prefer like something like Match.com where you actually have to list down stuff for your profile. And then you get matched with potential matches. So like people have read that. People have like seen what you're about. You get to see it and you choose who you talk to rather than swipe left and right all day long and not get anywhere.
Right. Yes. Facebook has rolled out a dating platform as part of their mobile app, and I feel like it's very much like Tinder.
It's very much like Tinder. Also, it might be a good idea to actually meet people in person. I know it sounds scary, but if there's like a event, it doesn't have to be a dating event necessarily, but an event around like where you're just like casually talking to people without any expectations, like a language exchange or just like a meetup for interest. That's a great way to meet people without feeling the pressure to, oh, I need to see if I can date this person. That way you just focus on the connection of the conversations.
Right. That's one of those things that my mom would always give me that kind of advice about friends. And every time she said it, I would just cringe. Like, oh, I'm not doing that. That's so terrible. It's awful. I'm not going in person to do something like that. And I just thought of it like in terms of the examples that she gave me, like a hobby or something that you like. And I thought, that's like, I'm not going to do that. And then years later, I actually took her advice and it was really good advice. As far as making friends, it works. But for me, this specific thing with dating wouldn't work because it's all girls that do this particular thing. But it works really, really well. I was surprised. I think part of it is just like stepping out of your comfort zone, and really taking that chance, which, yeah, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of alone time before and after to be able to do it.
Yeah, like I spend like literally like an hour alone before I used to go to meetups like that. And then I would just like come back home like within a couple of hours and just crash.
Yeah.
And
What's funny for me was last year about this time I was going to an event and I was like, I'm not going to do it. No, I have to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm going to do it. And it's like the whole time, excuse me, even up until like I had to go to New York to do it and I'm in Boston. So I'm like, up until the time that I got on the train, I was like, just, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm going to do it. Just like fighting back and forth until finally I'm just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I can't keep going on with this internal pressure. Like, I'm just going. I'm already at the train station. I'm just going to go. But then once I got there, it really wasn't that bad. It was just making the decision to go.
For me, what helped me in the past was going to events that I know are helping weekly and locally. So that way I can like schedule it in and I like don't have to make that decision every week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you just know, you don't have to decide. You're just like, nope, I'm going, done. No questions.
It's on the schedule. I'm going to go.
Right. And So we talked a little bit about this before. I know that I've talked to some INFJs and I myself have this problem. I have like this whole list of something that I want in a potential partner. And I've also been accused of having too high expectations. So how do you balance this? Like, first of all, is it okay to have this list? And then also, how do you balance what you want versus what reality looks like?
Mm, so the balance is kind of difficult to achieve, especially if you're clinging on to one or the other. So like if you're like putting a lot of pressure on yourself to like, you know, put yourself out there and not like really look at the list, or if you're like looking at the list too much, it kind of like creates the unbalance. I think it's great to have a list, personally. I still have a list, but I also know that like not everything is a priority in my life. Like that's how you balance it. It's like, what are some things that you definitely cannot live without? Like your non-negotiables. Are you
Right.
saying like things on your list, everything is non-negotiable? That's probably not true.
Right.
Probably not true, you know? So
Right.
like having that list, but then a list of non-negotiables that's a little bit more realistic. That's what you focus on, changing your long list to a non-negotiable list. That's it. That's how you balance it out.
Right.
There's not pressure anymore. So what are some things like you can't live without that's non-negotiable?
Yeah.
For me, it's growth. Like the person I'm with has to have a growth mindset. If they don't have it, boom, I'm not attracted. It's like
Yeah.
something stops me.
I think mine is similar. I always tell people that I want somebody who's successful. And to me, that doesn't necessarily mean wealthy. It means somebody who's driven and passionate about something. I have a couple of friends who are in jobs that they're okay with, but they don't really, they're not particularly passionate about them. But they're like, well, the pay's decent and I have insurance and those are important things, but at the same time it's like they're not really happy. I mean, they're not completely miserable all the time, but they're not really happy and they're not um they have no desire to do anything else. They're just comfortable and they're fine with that. And I'm like, I that's not okay. I don't want to be in that position for the rest of my life. I have this big dream and goal and purpose, I have there's a whole list of things that I want to do and I just don't want to be in a miserable job. So that's one of the big things for me is that they have to be driven and passionate about something.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like your number one on your non-negotiable list. Now you just have to keep going down what's
And then
there.
prioritize everything. Yeah. Yeah, that
Like,
makes sense. So when we're talking about dating and relationships as well, something that comes up is setting healthy boundaries, especially when you're talking about dating and you work full time and you have friends to keep up with. I'm really good at having this all or nothing mentality. So it's like if I'm going to go out on a date, then I'm going to date every single night for like 50 nights until I find the right person.
right.
Which is not what's called balance.
50 different people, you mean?
Right. Right. um so how do we find that balance and say, okay, we're going to take things a little bit differently this time. We're not going to get overwhelmed and then crash.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What are priorities in your life that's not dating? Like, how would you rank work, alone time, friend time, family time? How would you rank that?
um Well, with the way that my podcast is going, with all the interviews that I have going on, I rank alone time pretty high. And I only notice that when I don't have enough of it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So usually for INFJs, it's all about the connection. It's not about the quantity at all.
right.
Keeping in mind that, that's how you create the boundary because we really value quality. So like the date has to either be like amazing or if it's not, then we kind of like take a little break. So
Yeah.
it depends on like how much work, how much friend time, how much all the other stuff like rank in your life, but usually going once every 10 days or so actually works out because you can cultivate energy in 10 days for that one day, if that makes sense. Like balancing all of that, like going all in is not gonna, it's just gonna be quantity, not really the quality you're looking for.
Right. Right. Yeah,
But
that
usually
makes sense.
10 days. For some INFJs, they're more open to like a week or less, depending on like their work and other priorities. But like 10 days I found is to be a good number.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just 3 dates a month. It's not that bad.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about more of like when you're in a relationship. So you have this relationship now, and you still need that all important alone time. And sometimes you have a partner where you're like, I need alone time. And they're like, cool, I do too. And it's totally awesome and everybody gets it. But sometimes you have a partner and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't like me anymore? Like, what's going on? Not everybody understands the whole I love you, but you need to go somewhere else right now.
Okay, so why one thing very important to remember that is very related to how INFJs take ownership of other people's feelings. Like that's why it's very hard to have that conversation because you feel guilty because someone said, hey, let's spend time together, you don't like me anymore. Like even if it's in a flirty way, even if it's in a mean way, whatever the tone is, it's like you kind of feel like, oh, we need to do it now. So
Right.
that's where it is for us, the issue essentially.
Yeah. And some of us are even scared to say it, to scared to like even bring up the conversation because it's like, well, if I tell them I don't want to see them tonight, what if they take it the wrong way and then they never want to see me again?
Right. So like that's like one of the things where the communication shouldn't be based on guilt, but just being very open and say that, look, I really love you, but I'm tired and I just need to rest and be by myself.
Right.
It's just, it's not like making it like feel guilty or like asking permission. Like that's where the struggle is. It's like we struggle in ourselves. Like, hey, is it okay if I spend some time alone? I don't know about you, but I've done that a lot. When I want time alone, I kind of ask permission rather than just be like, I really need that time.
See, I'm a little bit different. I'm more of the person who doesn't ask for permission, but just says, cool, so I'm spending tonight by myself. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going home, so you get your own dinner.
It's the other extreme then.
Right.
So remember to add some reassurance when you say that. Or in my case, change the request to a reassurance and a statement.
Right.
Like, look, I really love you, but I really need some time alone. It has nothing to do with you. I'm just tired. Like, make it all about yourself and why you need it, rather than be like, you go figure your stuff out. Or can I do this? Like, no. Like, just make
Right.
it about you and why you need it.
Right.
Like, that's the way forward to that. I know it's scary, but like actually writing it on your phone and copy pasting it, especially it's over text, helps. Having like people sending it, and then you can say it eventually once you get enough text messages like that out to be
Right, find the exact words that work that they're okay with and be like, okay, every time I need alone time, this is part of it.
yeah.
One of my tricks too is to schedule things. I know we talked about routines. I like routines. So I'm like, okay, Monday and Wednesday are my time. We don't schedule dates during that time. We're not going out. If we are together, we're gonna stay at home.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And then say, okay, Friday nights and Wednesday night we'll go out. If we're going out. And then any other night you're bringing dinner home.
Make it very clear. Like that's how
Right.
like you're like, okay, like this is what I expect. But then the interesting thing to think about is how do you set that when you are living together, for example?
Yeah. Well, part of that is just like saying, okay, these are the nights that we're going out. And then
Yeah.
and then,
But
What's that?
Physical space.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's pretty clear that I haven't lived with somebody for a while. So I haven't gotten to that stage because it's like I need my alone time, you
Yeah.
know?
So a
So
way around that is actually like having activities that are separate for a few nights a week. Let's say you're dating someone who loves the gym. Okay, you go to the gym for a couple of hours. I'm going to stay home and have my alone time.
right,
Whatever that, like, encourage them to do their hobbies as well, and you do yours. It's a
right.
great way to have alone time where
Yeah,
you're not attached at the hip. Or it
right.
can be something else. You do whatever you want. I'm just not going to engage with you for the next few hours.
Right. We're gonna live in an apartment that's big enough where I can have an office and I could just close the door.
Right. Or, wear the noise canceling headphones and you're kind of in your own bubble.
Right.
Like, you're like constantly in each other's space. It's just you don't engage. Even if you're in the same room, there's no like talking, there's no engagement, there's not even like really much of looking at each other. It's just, I need my space, you go do your thing, I'm not going to talk to you for a few hours.
Yeah. One of my friends, when she first moved in with her boyfriend, they moved into a studio apartment. And I was like, why did you do that? Like, what do you do when you need alone time? You go sit in the bathroom? Do you have to leave? Like, what? I don't think I would ever agree to that. I mean, I'm fine with living in a studio apartment by myself, but you don't have anywhere, like not even a bedroom where you can close the door and say because the issue that came up was they got mad at each other and she had to leave. And I was like, I mean, at least if you had a bedroom, you could close the door. You wouldn't have to leave, you know?
Right, that can be a tricky situation because a lot of couples do stay in studios. I don't know how it is in Boston really, but like where I'm at in Thailand, most like apartment comes with like a pool area, so you can just go feel there even if it's like late at night, and it's still kind of safe. So I don't know how it is in America, but
Um, well, Boston specifically, rent is extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. So there probably are a lot of couples who live in studio apartments or who actually share. There are a lot of apartments that are like 4 or 5 bedroom apartments that just share one bathroom, which is awful, but that's how they are. So sometimes you can just rent a room. So you could just have a room and not really have your own bathroom to go into. Um,
right.
but not a lot of them come with pools because it's really cold in Boston for most of the year. Our summer lasts from like June until maybe September.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that's like pool season. And even June can be a little bit chilly. So, um, yeah,
That's
yeah.
I don't know. Would you just go sit in the hallway? Because I've done that.
Well, some people don't even have cars. Like if you live in the city or close enough to the city, then you don't have a car. I didn't have a car for the first 6 months that I lived here. So I was fortunate enough that I had my own apartment and I didn't have to worry about it. But now I have a car, so like if I got into trouble, I would just go sit in my car, go get in my car, go somewhere.
Right.
Because the good thing is about living in a big city is that there's always somewhere that's open or somewhere that you can go.
Right.
I grew up in a really small town in the Midwest, which is like smack dab in the middle of the United States, and it's
Yeah.
completely different there. The cost of living is a lot cheaper, but then there isn't always things open, and you might be 45 minutes from civilization. So
That's far.
yeah, yeah,
I think like disengaging with your partner is a great thing though. Like just being in the same room but not talking. It's a great way to get space. It's
right,
like you're in your own bubble.
yeah,
And
yes.
whoever is angry needs to go for a walk. That's like, whoever is angry goes for a walk.
Yes. Okay, so while we're talking about angry,
Yeah.
One of the issues that I've had this problem with my friends. I've had it with some relationships that I've had. Um, INFJs seem to have this problem of hanging on to things that don't work anymore. And
Mm.
it seems like we're just like one more chance, just one more try, just one more try, so many times to where it's like you end up being miserable because you give up so much for the people in your life because you want them to be happy, and you think, okay, if I just make one more change, if I just give them a little bit more, if I just do a little bit more for them, then we can make this work and everything will be fine.
Right.
But then you find yourself in the middle of this um relationship that's not working, but then you don't know how to leave.
Mm. So that is interesting because it's actually not always on us to change.
Right. But
But
we
we
always feel like it's our problem. You know, we feel like we're the ones who are doing something wrong, when you really look at it, you're like, okay, I have done a whole lot and they're not going to change.
like, I don't know about you, but like the way my anger works around situations like that is that it builds up and then it gets to the point where I just like say everything out, maybe in a very harsh way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it gets. And people, when that happens, people give me the whole, I don't know you at all. Like, you are not the person that I thought that you were. And I'm like, you're exactly right. I am not. I've been trying to be somebody that I'm not, and I'm done.
Right. I think having in friendships is like at least having on like just telling them what's going on. Like I know it's scary to like verbally speak it out what's going on. So like I found like just writing like a long like update message to my friends and be like, okay, this is what's kind of going on in my life. And I'm fortunate that my friends would just ask me deeper questions when we um
Right.
but with partners it's also important to like just have a talk about triggers. So like as hard as that is, you don't even have to like say it. You can just say that, hey, I want you to know my triggers and I want you to know yours. I want to know yours. So let's write a list and just exchange it. Like you don't even have to speak about it just yet. Like, you know, like you speak about it as the triggers happen or if there are more questions, but you don't actually have to go up and be like, these are my triggers straight off.
Right.
It's not about a relationship is not about you changing to accommodate the other person. Like INFJs have to understand this. Like this is like the big change in relationships. It's both of you. It's not you doing the work. It's both of you doing the work. It's both of you understanding each other. Like I know that if the connection is right, INFJs can open up really quickly, you know. But if
Right.
it's not, then there are still ways you can communicate and work on it. INFJs have to really just stop taking on the blame and the guilt, honestly.
Right.
That's it. It's like that personal awareness that, oh, I'm doing way more than the other person. And that's it. Like it's reaching that awareness. Does
Yeah.
that answer?
Yes. Yeah, I think it does. I think that we blame ourselves for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to fix all of the problems
Yeah.
when instead we should be communicating what we need more. I know
Yeah.
for me, especially, that's a lot of my problem. I feel like I take on everybody's emotions and I'm like, okay, I'm going to fix it. When it's like, no, what I should be doing is saying, communicating what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
My niece, I always use my niece as an example. She's 16 years old. She's an INTP, and she's great at, um, she's been going through a really hard time the last couple of years, honestly. And so she calls me and I'm like her counselor. And so she tells me all of her problems. And I get to this point where I'm like, oh, it's just so heavy. There's just so much. And one day she called me and she had a whole bunch more problems. And I told her, I'm like, stopped her mid sentence. I'm like, I can't listen to any of it. I'm sorry. I know that's terrible. And I was just kind of unloading on her. And she's like, oh, I forgot. And I'm like, you forgot what? She goes, I forgot that you're a sponge and you soak everything up. And she's like, I didn't mean for you to be soaking it up. Like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, because I'm a sponge. That's what I do. And so she's great at recognizing that. And even sometimes she'll start her problems with, okay, listen, I know you're a sponge and try not to soak this up, but here's what's going on. Um, so just having that communication with somebody, and especially when you're in a situation where there's some kind of negativity, or when there's a lot of conflict, just, or even if it's not between the two of you, if just your partner is going through something that's a big thing that you can't fix,
Yeah.
just having that awareness that, hey, this is what I need, and I'll listen to your problems and I'll be there for you as much as I can, but you have to understand that I'm a sponge,
Yeah.
and and there's going to be a point where I just can't soak up anymore, and I need to figure out how to release all of that, or to set it down somewhere else.
Yeah. Actually, just having a code word for situations like that help. Like it can be something like totally random. Like I used to have a code word with my current partner that's just earthworms. That means stop. you're not
Right.
you're not understanding me. So we use earthworms. You know?
Right.
Like we both understand what it means, and we don't have to like push the topic, push the stressful situation. So
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked a little bit, I think it was before we started, about door slam. So
yeah,
sometimes what happens is we get to that point where we've tried to communicate and it doesn't work. And, like we said, we just build things up and build things up. And sometimes we explode, and other times it's just like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And, or maybe they've hurt you too much, or, whatever it is. And it's just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. So you just cut off all communication with them whatsoever.
yeah,
I get a lot of conversation, or I get a lot of messages from people that are on the other side of the door slam, honestly. And I don't know if they just don't get it, or if maybe it wasn't communicated to them well enough. Um, so part of that is like, I want to explain to people what it is, so that um, as INFJs, we understand what we're doing, and that we're communicating to our partners that, at least, hey, peace out. I'm leaving. I can't take this anymore. But then also, if there is anybody out there that's listening that's on the other side of it, then I want them to know that it's not some snap decision where you're like, one day you're completely in love and everything's great, and the next day you just like have this weird switch that goes off in your head and it's like, nope, I'm done. It's not gonna work.
yeah.
That's not what it is. It's like something that builds up over time, and more times than not, it's a discussion that you've had over and over again, or it's something that just keeps going, and you're just like, okay, I can't do it anymore. That's it.
So the best way to explain it to the people to the other side of the door is like a lot of times INFJs also say I'm done when they're actually not.
Right.
So like
But then there is one time, that last time, where they're like, I'm totally done. I told you I was done. Now you're going to see it.
that's like I think a key thing. It's where like a lot of times INFJs will say I'm done in moments of stress. It's not because they're actually done, it's because they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But the difference is when an INFJ says I'm done for the last time, they're cold. They're not crying. They're not arguing with you. They're cold, like they're shut down.
Yes.
So
Yep.
like that's the difference for the people who have been on the other side. That's
Yes.
the first thing to understand. The second thing you have to understand is they became cold because literally they have tried everything on their end and they don't see anything from you. It's something that comes like if there's no change, that's what it eventually leads to. That coldness is what it leads to. It's like it gets to the point where they're like, you know what? I've tried. I gave it my 100%. I'm not even getting anything back. Bye-bye. Like, that's what it is.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes I feel a little bit weird because it's happened to me a few times where I've had to door slam somebody, and it's like after it happens I'll sit there and think about like maybe there's something like emotionally wrong with me because I should be crying and I'm not crying, and I'm upset about it, but it's just like I'm more mad. But what's interesting to me is I don't usually get extremely mad until after the fact. I'm always sad and hurt, and sometimes there's lots of guilt and shame because I think that, you know, that's something that a lot of us as INFJs deal with a lot is the guilt. um, but me getting extremely mad doesn't usually happen until afterwards.
Yeah. But another thing that very interestingly happens is we're a lot more emotional when we're still fighting.
Yeah.
We're still fighting for a relationship, a friendship. We're still very emotional. But our emotional threshold has a point. And that's the I'm done point we never want to get to with a partner. And like what you said was very interesting. I don't know about you, but or your viewers, but like for me, when I'm like really like sad and at that point of door slam, I also like feel a little bit of relief creeping in.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Because it's like you know that you've put up with too much for too long, and
Yeah.
you don't necessarily want to do, you know, to do that, to just cut somebody out of your life, but at the same time it's like yeah, relief that you don't have to do it anymore. And it's like you kind of release all of the hope and expectations, and um you release all of your feelings of being responsible for it as well, you know.
We end up taking way too much in a relationship, and like it's so hard to feel that relief in the beginning actually because we're so sad and we're angry, and then you know we kind of want to break things but we don't, you know. Like we go through all, and then like 2 days later we're like, oh, I feel better today. Like it just like creeps up out of nowhere, that relief.
Yeah. I went through one of the most difficult breakups that I ever went through in my life a couple of years ago. Um, Probably 5 years ago now. I can't believe it's been 5 years. I was trying to think. And it was one of those things where I was like literally on the floor crying every single day. And then, and I thought, I'm never going to be okay. Nothing is ever going to be okay again. You know, it's the end of the world. There's no point in going on. And then I'm the type of person who like forces myself to get up and keep going, you know, and I spend my alone time curled up in a ball crying. and and then one day it was like, you know what? I didn't think about him anymore today. That's odd because I always think about him like every single day, all the time. But today I didn't really. Huh. And then, you know, a couple of weeks go by and a month goes by and it's like, oh, I haven't thought about him in a while. I guess I'm okay. Like it just kind of comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden you're just totally okay. And I was like, wow, that's really weird because I was like positive that I was never going to be okay again. And then all of a sudden, you're right. It's like this relief that's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it is okay. I can do something else now.
It also creeps up on you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of fascinating because like other personalities, it doesn't creep up as much. Like they're kind of like aware each time it comes up. For us, it's just like out of nowhere. It's like suddenly there's nothing. It's like, huh,
Yeah.
why?
Yes. When people reach out to me when they're going through something like that, where, you know, they're still in that stage of feeling like, you know, the world is coming to an end, I'm always like, you know, I know that you're going to hate this advice because I would have hated it if somebody told me that in that moment, but just give it time. You'll be okay. Just keep doing the things that you're doing, you know, spend some time doing things that make you feel happy, some time in self-care, and Maybe spend some time with your friends if they're supportive of you,
Yeah.
and you'll be okay. Eventually, one day, you're going to be okay, and it's probably pretty soon, hopefully, sooner than what you think. You just have to stick it out until then.
It's just a few weeks, like at the most, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. So cool. All right. So tell us a little bit about your business. You do relationship coaching for people who need some help. I need some help. So I'm like super excited about this, especially about having a coach. I would have never thought about having a dating coach, honestly.
So
Or a relationship coach.
I do all kinds of um coaching that comes with relationships, not just one. So um
Right?
I'm I just love relationships, and I'm just like, let me help you, please. Oh, this problem, okay, I can do it. You know, like,
Right?
so like what I do is I help singles. I also help couples, and I also help people like get over their breakups. I help everyone in that realm, essentially. So what do you want to know about?
um just like the basics, like what does it look like when I say okay, um for my situation specifically, I am single, and I have a lot of fears around dating, and a lot of I think one of my biggest problems is like I feel like it's a waste of time.
Right.
And so for me, I've even spoken to like matchmakers and things like that. And the last one that I spoke to just a few weeks ago, they're like, "Well, for $6,000, we can solve all of your problems." And I'm like, I don't know if you can, honestly, because $6,000. I mean, it seems like a lot, but I have a lot of problems. So, um, I think one of my biggest questions would be, and I think that a lot of our audience would ask, like, why would you hire a relationship coach?
So the whole point of a relationship coach is to help you get from point A to point B. Your
Right.
point B goal. If your goal is, oh, I want to start dating again, then I personalize a program for you that essentially we help you create healthy dating habits. We help you create stronger boundaries and how to communicate them. So I teach you those skills as well. I also unblock all the blocks you have. So that's your fears around dating.
Right.
Like I give you strategies to overcome those fears. It's still a lot of work involved. Like you still have to put in the work, but I'm there to guide you very safely from point A to point B, whatever that point B goal is.
Yeah. That sounds pretty awesome, honestly, because I know that there are a lot of things that for me are like, when people ask me why I don't date, I have all these reasons, which
Yeah.
are really pretty much excuses.
Yeah.
But it seems pretty awesome to me to be able to have somebody to walk you through all of those things and to answer all of the questions.
Right.
I know that last year I hired a business coach,
Yeah.
and when I first did it, I thought, okay, that's a lot of money, and I don't really know if what you're promising me is actually going to happen, but I hope that it will. And honestly, it was one of the best investments that I've ever made. Because just really having somebody there who's supportive of you, but really doesn't have any skin in the game either, is completely awesome. And to have somebody to just bounce ideas off of. And I know that a lot of people say, okay, well, you can go to your friends and do that. But that's
But
not always the case, because your friends aren't experts
yeah.
in the field. And another problem that I have with my friends is that they're my age, but they're married and they have kids, and they don't know what it's like to be single and dating at 34 years old.
And it's also important to have like an objective viewpoint of like why are you making these choices? Like your friends will just be like, do what is right for you, you know? But like
Yes.
why this and why not this? Like it helps, like I help you like consider other options that you might not have. you know,
Yeah.
like that perspective is so important to just be like, consider this, you know, you don't have to do it, just consider it, you know.
Right. Right. For sure. Awesome. Great deal. Well, tell us where we can find you, your website and your social media.
So I'm mostly on social media.
Okay.
I'm Shachee coaching, Shachee relationship coaching. I'm on there most of the time. I also have a website called sashicoaching.com.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll put the links in the show notes too, so everybody make sure that they can find you. Awesome. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview as much as I do. If you have any questions about relationships, please reach out to Shachee. She is so completely amazing. She's not really on Instagram, but you can definitely find her on Facebook. And she's joined the community, the INFJ community as well. So if you're there, you can find her there as well. And if you have any questions about how to get in touch with her, you can reach out to me and I will make sure that you get in touch with her. So I just wanted to go over some takeaways from the interview. Number one, dating for INFJs can be difficult, but there are many solutions. It's important to get out there and try. Number two, INFJs need alone time even in relationships. It's important to take care of yourself and embrace this need. Number three, communication is really important for you and your partner. Really important. Number four, boundaries are important so that we're not taking on other people's emotions, even the emotions of your partner. Number five, communicate your needs before you get to the point of a door slam. And number six, when you leave the relationship, it's going to be hard, but it will get better. Gradually at first, and then all at once. All right, that's all we have for today. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast, especially if it's on YouTube, so that you don't miss an episode. Again, make sure that you watch all of the videos on YouTube. You can watch them at youtube.com/thequietonespodcast. And you'll also find some bonus videos on youtube.com/INFJwoman. So make sure that you subscribe in both places. And also leave a review or a comment or a like wherever you listen. It helps other people to be able to find us and to listen as well. And if you know any INFJs or anybody who could benefit from any of the information that you hear, please share it with them. It helps all of us, honestly. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. I really appreciate it. You guys have made this podcast such a success. We finally hit 20,000 downloads, which I say finally because I've been waiting for it for a while. But I'm so excited and blown away by that fact. I never thought that we would hit 20,000 downloads when I first started. And I'm just so excited about it. So thank you so much. Thank you for all of your support. And we'll see you again next week.